In 1832, 10 years before Father Sorin came to Notre Dame, Thomas Bulla came to South Bend and he purchased 160 acres of farmland. And he began farming and built a log cabin right where Flanner Hall and Stebbins Center are now located. In his writings, in the writings of his children, and in the early histories of the University of Notre Dame, there is much evidence that suggests that Bulla used his log cabin as a place of refuge for those seeking freedom on the Underground Railroad. I think the story of the Underground Railroad should be a source of inspiration for us. It's a largely untold local history of people acting together to help those in need, of asking the question, who is my neighbor? When we hear the name Bulla and we listen to this music, we should be inspired by this legacy that we've been given, this local example of people working across differences in pursuit of justice and the common good. The works that we sing in the Collegium were performance pieces, they were performance pieces. They were performed oftentimes as part of the church mass. The songs that we sang on stage with Ms. Battle were part of the lived experience of being a church. They were part of the lived experience of worship that come from a very different context, but are extremely powerful. And yes, we put these songs that were originally performed on field on stage, but we did that because they have a teaching role. It has a teaching role. We were teaching these songs to an audience that largely did not know these songs, teaching them part of their history, part of American history. So that was an important part of the experience, was kind of reclaiming these songs as part of our American history. It was important that the choir was a diverse choir, because this music is not just part of the African American tradition, it's part of the American tradition. And it was important, I think, to have a diverse set of readers articulating the words of Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, because these are our founding mothers and our founding fathers, just in the same way that Abraham Lincoln or George Washington is. These are voices that need to be lifted up and internalized. When you sing, you give yourself over, you give your body, you give your breath over to new ideas and to different emotions and feelings. And the content of this music was about this longing for liberation and seeking freedom, of having trust, having hope in God, having trust that things will be better. And so you couldn't help but be moved and connected to this American history in a new way. Singing lets you do that. Singing kind of breaks down the barriers, breaks down separations. If you want to get to know people, a new group of people very quickly, sing with them, because you move from being a disconnected group of individuals to actually physically being connected through voice, through breath, through rhythm. And that was the experience I had on this stage, was of working with new artists that I hadn't worked with before, but immediately being drawn together because of the music, because of the content, the moral charge of the music, and of course the opportunity to work with a star like Kathleen Battle.